Welcome inside, everybody. Another episode of Bill Matic, the only Bills podcast that also is an ode to 90s hip-hop. How are we as the Bills get a victory to move to 3-0 on Thursday Night Football? So glad you're with us. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. That way you get notified when we go live after every Bills game. Also, when we go live on Sundays, no matter what, to recap the entire day of football. Subscribe if you're watching on X or Instagram Live. Welcome aboard as well. To me, this game is defined by special teams. And in the game of football, especially in the NFL, if a game is defined by special teams, it means that the offense and defense, the other parts of the game, were really, really close. And that special teams was that differentiator. A lot of colleges have used special teams to try to close the gap, the talent gap between them and a bigger program. And I think that's kind of how this one unfolded. You had a team in the Dolphins that is far inferior to the Bills. You had a team in the Dolphins that will be going nowhere the rest of this season. You have a Bills team that has its sights set on, obviously, a Super Bowl, and yet here we are with a tie game in the fourth quarter. Why? Well, the two sides ended up really playing to a draw except for special teams. When it came to the Bills special teams, a missed Matt Prater field goal early didn't allow the two-score lead, kept the Dolphins in it, gave them some life. They came back down the field and scored. Then the flip side is, you have the Bills back to punt. You're going to get the ball back. And what ends up happening? A crushing penalty in running into the kicker. Bills get the football back, and then that kind of breaks open the game. So one bad special teams for the Bills, one awful special teams play for the Dolphins, and that kind of defined this game. Now, Prater makes up for it with the long field goal at the end to make it a 10-point lead, but that's not really acceptable in this game. I know the Dolphins are desperate and the Bills are not. I know the Dolphins perhaps are playing or coaching for Mike McDaniel's job, and that has to be factored in. Divisional games are usually tight, yada, yada, yada. You know the bit. But this game should not have been as close as it was. And for tomorrow and the rest of next week, there is going to be some teeth gnashing in Buffalo, understandably so, because it comes down to, once again, third down defense for the Bills. And this has been an Achilles heel of the Bills for how long now? Last year, that Bills defense was able to create turnovers, but unable to get off the field on third downs. They ranked 30th in the league, only 2 slots from the bottom in third down percentage on defense. So everybody got third down conversions against them. And then tonight, a scoring drive consisted of 5 different third down conversions by the Dolphins. And it continued throughout the night. And that has got to be absolutely mind-bending for any Bills supporter, any Bills fan that believes this is finally the year to break through if the defense continues to show weaknesses and leakiness like that. And there was certainly a lot of the opening Sunday night vibe here where you get the win, that's great, but there's a lot on defense to have to figure out. So that's the overall kind of vibe to me of this game. If you want to weigh in with comments, your thoughts, your opinions, certainly send them to me either on X or on Twitter. X is Twitter. Or on Instagram or on YouTube, and I'll get to those coming up here in just a little bit. Once again, this is Bill Matic. We're so glad that you're with us, and we're here with you after every single Bills game. I'm with you, breaking it down right here, so make sure you are subscribed so that you are always connected to this channel and to this breakdown. Make sure you are locked in by being subscribed to the channel. Let's start with your goods on the night. It's time for the shout. Look, no matter what, when the offense puts up 31 points, that should be enough to win a football game. And so you look at some of the individual plays, you look at some of the individual efforts that the Bills put up. They didn't settle for field goals. They scored 4 different touchdowns. They also had, I thought, a really good night run of the football with James Cook. Cook continues to validate that contract that he got. You know, there is a play in the first quarter on 3rd and 2 where James Cook kind of slides and then hits the hole and bursts through. And while the Bills have depth at running back, there is no other back on this team that has that burst, that explosiveness. Cook sets himself apart there. And I know that there was conversation about whether or not you pay a running back a lot of money in the preseason, but Cook has that thing, that next gear that the other guys don't. And there's the play where he kind of has patience, allowing the hole to open up in the second quarter, and then he squirts through and then hits that gas. It's a great running back play. It's a great running back play. And so Cook continues to deliver on the ground. You got to like that. The throw that Josh makes to Kincaid between the defender over the top in the first quarter is beautiful. And the touchdown kind of chuck, the underhanded chuck, is really, I mean, if we're allowed to gush a little bit on a night like this, even though the Bills overall should not have been in such a tight ball game, Josh running left, surveying the scene, can do one of 3 things. Either he can throw it over the top of the defense and hit a receiver, he can take it himself and sneak it, or in this case, the third option is wait, pause, pull defense in, underhand, sidearm flick. It's a brilliant play. And it is indicative of a quarterback that has complete control and mastery right now of the game. It is something to watch. There is just a certain handful of moments in a game where he goes into beast mode, and that was certainly one of them. You know, it's just amazing to watch a guy that comfortable, that in command, be able to kind of wait, bait a defense, and then go, there you go. That's your 6. And I know that Tua this week was open about all the things that Josh can do that he can't, which was kind of a weird mentality to take into this game. Wow, he's so good. I can't believe how good Josh is. I could never be that good. But it does show you on the field, like that's just not a play that Tua can make. It's not a play a lot of quarterbacks can make, but Tua is just never going to look so comfortable in an offense that he kind of waits, pauses, paces, boom, I got you. I got you where I want you. Touchdown. The Shaq Thompson hit, the huge hit, is one that made me think back to like the jacked up segments on Monday nights. You know, that was a good old school crunching hit, great anticipation, great explosion through the ball, great tackle. You had to love that. That's one of the best tackles so far on the season. And there's that 1st and 20 for Josh where he drops back, he sees the lane, he scrambles. He puts 2 jukes in there and then slides for a 19-yard gain. And he makes that look so effortless that when you have that weapon at your disposal, you'll never be in a down and distance that feels impossible. You know, it's a 1st and 20. And for a lot of offenses, that means 3 plays and maybe you can pick it up if you're lucky, if all 3 plays connect. And they've usually got to be through the air a design play. This is what we want to do. In this case, it's kind of a broken play, and Josh makes 19 out of it anyway and doesn't suffer a hit on it. It's just an amazing play, really. The Bernard interception saves the day. That looked bad going down the field. It's a really good way. It's a really good play by a linebacker to wait and read to his eyes. I thought the Prime crew did a great job. And then Herbie also outlining and watching in real time and then slow motion where Tua's eyes were going. And Bernard watched it and got it. And that was big. It didn't go through his hands. It's a linebacker. Not necessarily going to have great hands, but that one's an easy kind of lollipop in there. He doesn't worry about getting it all the way upfield, covers up the football, gets out of bounds. And that basically saves the game. And then Elijah Moore with a huge first down as well. another case of, I know that Joe Brady and the Bills coaching staff wants to continue to hammer, hey, everybody eats, everybody eats, everybody eats. That's really a case where if you believe it as one of those wide receivers and you buy in that it's not Keon Coleman's offense, it's not going to be all Kincaid, all Coleman, all one guy or another guy any given day. You're just going to have to make one or two plays in the game, but one or two plays that you get are going to be vital. Elijah Moore had one of those plays tonight. So that, to me, kind of the good here. And again, the offense puts up the 31 points. So you like that just from a total point standpoint. It's hard to lose football games in the NFL if you're going to put up 31. Then again, it's not impossible. It's not impossible, as we saw opening night by the Ravens. And so there are some knocks here tonight as well. You can't freak out because it's a 3-0 football team, and the standings and the situations of the AFC have really broken your way. But this defense, despite the win now, 3 weeks, they have not played a full 60-minute solid game. I thought against the Jets last week, obviously you look at the scoreboard and the production and say, well, they only gave up, 3 points when it mattered, a total of 10. That's a garbage time 7 at the end. But that Jets offense also kind of shot itself in the foot. You have the fumbles. And look, turnovers are part of your defensive game plan, no doubt. You want to create turnovers. But I think that's kind of a tough indicator to say that's a great defensive effort. I thought a lot of that had to do with the Jets are just such a pedestrian team. The Dolphins came in tonight, and now these are 2 home games. You figure the Ravens are going to put up points and yards, but you don't figure they're going to be doing it that easily, where Derrick Henry becomes unstoppable. And at times, the Henry and Lamar combination looks like the Bills will never get off the football field. That thing that happened tonight where a really struggling, desperate, ready to kind of, to me, roll over and die Dolphins team is kept alive tonight because the Bills defense couldn't get off the football field. And that's end of the day, it's the third down conversions. If they just force a couple of punts, if out of the 7 or 8 kind of killer third down conversions, the Bills get 2 or 3 stops, it's kind of a non-contest. But instead, time and time again, the Dolphins end up converting the third and longs, end up creating touchdowns, not field goals. And it makes it a tie ball game in the fourth quarter, which it just really can't be. This game can't be because the Dolphins are dead to rights this season. So I'm going to give him a bit of a pass with the early drive. You're McDaniel, your career, your job is on the line. Maybe your career as a head coach is on the line. You've got to design an opening drive, a first quarter where, okay, you're going to spend the entire week in the lab putting this thing together. All right. Once you get through that, though, the Bills defense just has to get off the field. Has to. And a Dolphins attack that looked like puke against the Colts, and then was relatively abysmal against the Patriots last week, just cannot look that effective. And I know they've got pieces. Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are obviously 2 very good wide receivers. They've got pieces. Achan's a pretty good running back. Tua's not a complete bum, but that there's a chance to just end the Dolphins season early in this game. You get a turnover, you get off the football field, the Bills convert a 7 on a short field or whatever that looks like. It really should have been 24-7 first half or 21-7 first half or whatever, or at third quarter, 31-10, and then it's not a game. But instead, the defense just cannot get off the field on third downs. I know that they need Maxwell Hairston back. Okay, that should help. Tre'Davious White looks like it's going to be a problem if he's ever in man. He's coming off the injury. Obviously, he's up there in years. So you got to watch that. There are a few really good individual plays in this game. Bosa had a bunch of great individual efforts last week against the Jets. He had Ed Oliver's huge game week 1 against the Ravens. But there just has to be collectively a tighter design on plays and a tighter execution on plays as well. because at the end of the day, we know that the Bills are not going to be defined by a September game against the Dolphins or a win against the Jets. They will be defined by what happens in January, and this defense at this point in time is just not up to that standard. Ty Johnson, some small stuff, had to drop on third down when they're up 21-14. Not great. You also had the brutal miss by Prater, as I mentioned early. That's not even close. Now, Prater's been kind of a hero, especially after week one. Great story. You know, you don't want to bury him too badly. He made up for it late in the game with the long one that made it to 10, but not great. And I thought that there was a bunch of runs by Ollie Gordon by the Dolphins that just arm tackling by the Bills defense, and including Shaq Thompson had the big hit earlier in the game, but just total arm tackle, and Gordon blew through it for a big gain. So those, to me, are kind of the big knocks on it. If you've got them, you definitely can hit me up as well in the comment section here, and I'll try to read through those coming up here before we get out on the show. You know, I want to also say that this podcast, Bill Matic, is presented by our good friends over at Sandbaggers, where I will be next week. That's right. How about this? Sandbaggers is Western New York's newest golf simulator and sports bar. This place is awesome. It's in Hamburg. We're going to be doing a meet and greet there on Saturday, a week from Saturday, the Saturday before the Saints game. I'm coming up for the Saints game. Saturday in the afternoon, 4 until 6 in the afternoon, we're doing a meet and greet there. We'll play golf simulation. We'll have a lot of fun. It's a great place to watch your NFL football on Sundays. They've got it open all day long. Huge space, beautiful space, tons of chairs and stools and tables and TVs. So you're going to have your space there. The largest golf simulator bays in Western New York. And when I am there coming up on Saturday the 27th, that says the 26th, but Saturday the 27th, when I'm there, we are going to have a major special where I am plunking down the credit card. That's right, and I'm paying, baby. I just hit 2 years at SiriusXM. We've had so many awesome Buffalo listeners, Western New York and upstate New York listeners. Love the show, weigh in on the show, welcome me. And the last 2 years have been phenomenal at SiriusXM. So I said, you know what? As a thank you, I'm coming up there. Let's do a listener meet and greet. We've got a great audience here on Bill Matic as well. I'm paying. All right? I'm paying. So come on down 4 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, the day before the Saints game, Sandbaggers in Hamburg, and I am paying. It's on me. All right? It's on. What more do you need? We'll watch some college football, get ready for an NFL Sunday, and beers are on me. Let's do it, okay? Plus, my buddies at Santo Tequila are going to be there, so they're going to be doing a huge activation. So we'll have giveaways, T-shirts, hats, etc., drink specials. It's going to be great, and Santo Tequila is amazing. So be there on Saturday at Sandbaggers. We always do something a little mystical here, looking for a kind of a greater purpose if you're a Bills fan. You know, you have to believe in something that's never happened, obviously, before. So how do you do that? Well, you find the things that are mystical. You find the things that are not just X's and O's on the football field. This is when we honor the Buffalo. The Bills are 3-0. The Chiefs are 0-2. You have a tiebreaker over the Ravens. And Joe Burrow is injured for 3 months. I mean, we can't get ahead of ourselves here. But if there is a perfect AFC chessboard and a Bills fan is moving that around, okay, the chess pieces, if Tim Russert upstairs is moving these chess pieces around, this is how the AFC would look. Right now, I would say if you zoom back 3 weeks, the power brokers of the AFC, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals. Yep. And look, the Bengals missed the playoffs last year, but the Bengals are the only team to break this chokehold of Chiefs dominance during the Mahomes era and get to the Super Bowl. You know, outside of the first year that he started when the Patriots did it, since that moment when he won his first Super Bowl, it's only been the Bengals. So Burrow coming back, they re-signed Higgins, they re-signed Jamar Chase, they re-signed Trey Hendrickson. You had to give them the nod. If you were to look at this AFC now, whatever the above forces are that's moving around the chess pieces, well, the Chiefs are struggling. And they probably beat the Giants on Sunday night. But even if they do, it's 1-2, and their 2 tests so far, they have failed those tests against their playoff caliber foes in the Chargers and the Eagles. For the Bengals, even if Burrow comes back into the season, whatever that next 9 to 12 weeks look like, it's not going to be ideal with Jake Browning. You have a tiebreaker over the Ravens. And in the rest of the AFC, Chargers, okay. You kind of look around. The AFC South, the Texans are 0-2. I don't know if you fear the Texans anyway, but the Texans are 0-2 and their offense can't get on track. You know, the Dolphins are pitiful. The Patriots do not look much improved. You just blew the doors off the Jets. You know, you start looking around and going, kind of everything looks the way you hoped it would look at its absolute best case scenario. This is how it kind of looks, right? So for whatever it's worth right now, obviously it's early. But if you're going to honor the buffalo, which is a sacred animal in so many indigenous and ancient cultures, well, this would be something that you would say, this is looking up for a Bills fan. Let's get to some comments here on the old Bill Matic. And Smitty says, I'm not a Bills fan, but when does Sean McDermott get on the hot seat? He reminds me of Thibodeau, not a bad coach, great record, but are you going to win with him? He leaves me wanting more. You know, this is always going to be the dance that Bills fans do when you have a coach like Sean McDermott and he doesn't do the traditional intense, fiery speeches. He doesn't do the grab you by the face mask, the quips to the media. He doesn't come off as a guy that kind of, for lack of a better phrase, kind of is the big dog at the podium. He's much more subdued. He's much more buttoned down. He's much more not going to say anything that's too visceral or emotional, and people respond to that, and players respond to that. He has certainly been at the helm for some really brutal losses. And if you go back to 13 seconds against the Chiefs, you know, if you want to lay that at his feet, I've done it. Totally fair. I think that for the Bills where they are right now, where you have a roster in place, you have a quarterback in place, you have continuity in place, and you're knocking on the door every single year. And really the only team that you simply cannot figure out are the Chiefs. If you're going to make a change to head coach at Sean McDermott, it has to be simply because you don't think that guy can beat the Chiefs because he's beaten everybody else. He's beaten everybody else. And at least in the AFC. And I don't think you could blame coaching for last year's loss to the Chiefs. Now, if they hit a wall again this year and everything broke their way and they're the 1 seed, yada, 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 and they still can't do it on a year where the Chiefs look, you know, obviously not like their former selves and something else happens, something implodes. Certainly when we get to that bridge, we can cross it and say the time has come. But coming into this year, I did not think the Bills had to fire McDermott after last season because I just didn't pin coaching as the reason. They still, once again, couldn't get past the Chiefs. Robbie in Michigan, what's up, dude? Will the Detroit hater Babchick be there in Buffalo? No, at this point, he's not planning on. He's not scheduled for it, my cohort on Mad Dog Sports Radio. But I told him today on the air, you're more than welcome and you'll have a good time. So if we can convince him, maybe we can get Babs up to Western New York here next weekend. Ruben says Dolphins had some fight tonight. They did, and I do think you got to give the Dolphins and Mike McDaniel credit here. It's a team that is floundering, and they will continue to flounder all season long. They're not a great football team. They seem disconnected. It's a squad that has some pieces, but they don't have the depth of the roster at important spots. And so you're going to have more games that look like weeks 1 and weeks 2 than tonight. I thought tonight they knew the season was on the line, that this was national TV, statement game, coach is under fire, team is under fire. This is our moment. And they came out and they played like it, and you got to give them credit. You do have to give them credit for fighting. I also, though, think the Bills played a lethargic game. There was no downfield shots taken by Joe Brady and Josh Allen in the offense. There was no big plays dialed up. The defense, consistently kind of got beaten on third down. I didn't feel like the Bills played their best effort either. So while the Dolphins deserve credit for keeping it close and making it a game, I also have to think some of that is just that the Bills had a bit of going through the motions. And I guess maybe you can afford to do that when, you're playing a team like the Dolphins. They'll do that again next week against the Saints. The Bills' schedule is not very difficult. But while the Dolphins did play a admirable brand of football tonight, some of that was simply that the Bills just weren't really on point. And Jack asks, where do you place Kincaid among the younger tight ends of the league? Look, he's not Brock Bowers, but he can be a really important part of this attack. He can be a really important part of the offense. And if he is fully healthy, what you see from Kincaid is fantastic hands, athleticism that gets him off of the line of scrimmage easily, and is a mismatch against linebackers. The issue is, I think sometimes perhaps concentration lacks. I think Kincaid sometimes misses catches that he probably should make. And I think it just happens to be in an offense that spreads the football around dramatically. Now, look, if the Bills had peak Gronk, or they had Brock Bowers, maybe they would feed the tight end 3 times as much as they give it to, Kincaid and Dawson Knox. But I do think that if everybody's got to eat, because that's the way the offense runs, that Kincaid for 4 catches a game can make a huge impact. Like I said about some of the other guys, you just have to make sure when you get the touches, you don't miss them. And sometimes I feel like Kincaid does miss them. But yeah, I mean, if he was playing an offense that was tight end centric, I think his numbers could be really good. Again, he's not a top 3 tight end in the NFL, but he could certainly be in the top tier of tight ends, I think, in the NFL, or maybe just below those elite tight ends in the NFL. All right, that's going to do it for me because I got to be on the air coming up in a few hours. I'm on the air starting at 6 a.m. Eastern time on Channel 82, Mad Dog Sports Radio. So thanks, everybody, for watching here tonight. Once again, Bill Matic comes at you every single week after all Bills games and during the week with some behind-the-scenes stuff as well, and trying to chronicle this final season of the Bills Stadium. So I want to bring some history into the mix here for the Bills fan and for the NFL fan that likes the history as well. Get some guys that have been through some battles for the AFC East and the AFC and for Buffalo as well, and gone through the ringer there. And I wanted to bring that to you this season as well. So keep an eye out for those types of stories and conversations as well. All right, everybody, this is Bill Matic. Once again, thanks. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click on this button below me or that button above me. I will see you tomorrow morning on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82 on Sirius XM. Once again, I appreciate you guys watching this. And as always, be good and be good to one another, right? Remember that. I'm DA, Damon Amendolara. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We are signing off. We're out of here. Like I said, peace.